Hey guys, so I haven't made a video in a long time, but I've been getting a number of messages and just, questions and thoughts from my viewers, and I figured I owe it to actually, post stuff and respond and catch up a little bit. Um, so with this video, I'm just posting, reading to you a couple of excerpts from some new piece that I'm writing, and I tried to write it as a summing up of my recent studies and insights and the books that I've been reading, especially William Irwin Thompson's books, because I think he conveys an alternative picture of the evolution of consciousness. Um, Very unique, not really talked about by other theorists, and underappreciated, really. So I just wanted to convey it to my friends, so I actually wrote it in an email. And it was very helpful for me because I'm writing it to somebody who probably hasn't read anything on this guy, and Thompson is his work isn't easy. It's not just lists and stages. It's very intricate and poetic and creative and all over the place and kind of messy. Um, so it was kind of a challenge for me to bring things together and sum it up and tell it in a way that somebody who hasn't read him before would understand. So I guess I'll just read you a couple of the excerpts. I tried to sum it up in coherent fashion, but okay. So here goes. We may be nearing the end of what we call civilization, just as, for the most part, we reached the end of tribal life as humans began to build the first settlements. What we are creating now is as new as the first city-state. It's a planetary city, and it cannot sustain itself on the mentality of national industrial minds. It requires entirely new ways of thinking and seeing and relating to the world. Some believe this is harking the return of Mother Goddess. It could be that young in the collective unconscious was an early bird in this new dawning of myth and imagination, the feminine and the mind as relational. The true eruption of Mother Goddess may come as civilization truly goes through its own death. Mother Goddess returns in the wings of the apocalypse, as everything our secular civilization has denied, spirit, imagination, interconnection, the feminine, comes not as saviors, but as the horses of the apocalypse. It's as unique and emergent as the first painter stepping up to the top of the Italian mountain and painting the landscape realistically, which was unheard of at the time. Simultaneously, Columbus was discovering the Americas and turning the flat world into a globe. This eruption of a new world and a new world view is exactly what is going on today. The uniqueness of our mentality is that we are emerging into a biospheric view rather than a Newtonian one. The landscape has to do with ecology, evolution, and the vastness of time. It's far bigger and more complex than a Newtonian universe, and so we find ourselves stepping out of the cave of civilization and into the landscape of Gaia. And then I was writing on the esoteric dimension to this, the spiritual dimension to this. The shaman is one who can lift the veil and see more of what the world already is. The mystical priest is the same for our civilization. Now as we enter the age of Gaia, the wheel turns again, and we will have seers and sages not as priests or shamans, but something new and different. They will be less organized, but more united, less dogma and more insight. The heart of the temple was always a mystical letting go of cultural baggage and leaping into the unknown, heart first. This realization or union with the divine will always return, part of the larger mythical story of the eternal return, a kind of democratization of the esoteric, or as Thompson's Lindisfarne called, the planetization of the esoteric. So that instead of there being one mystic or for 100 priests, there are a dozen or 2 dozen or more. The heart of the esoteric practice cracked open for the world. While it's borderline utopian to imagine a society of sages, something like the Tao Te Ching imagined and Thompson hopes for, it is a possibility worth considering. More and more people are able to practice contemplative disciplines, and with science and mystics collaborating, not to mention psychedelics and science, see DMT, the spirit molecule, such a future is not a distant possibility. It seems to be existent already in embryonic form. History turns over again, and catastrophe is also divine. A greater recollection is required. Nothing short of reunion of self and world is being asked for, in an age where it is a requirement in order to truly emerge as a planetary human species. So, yeah, that's the excerpt. But it's about becoming whole again. It's about exploring the different dimensions of self and eventually needing to bring ourselves together, to recollect, to contemplate and emerge more whole. And this mystical process of reunion, of emergence, of rebirth, has so many connections to the evolution of consciousness, to myth, and to science. Because if you look at science and evolution, it's all about reproduction, it's all about death and birth. So this sort of mystical, well, definitely mystical, tale of recreation and destruction, birth and rebirth, being born again and allowing more of who we are to come forth into the world, is present in mythical tales, which is what Thompson explores and what I've been exploring, and also in scientific narratives, and bringing the two together and comparing them, not as one more real than the other, but as real in different ways. Real in the ways that wisdom is insightful, but it isn't an object that we can study and pick apart. Myth and science are both telling of the mystery. They're both expressions of the divine, of the infinite. One not to be measured more than the other, but as alternative wings of the world, of reality, and it requires a kind of mythopoeic imagination to keep these things side by side and to see everything as an expression of the inexpressible, no matter how secular or how magical you make them. It's being able to expand your mind to that degree, to that ability to dance between myth and science and matter and mind and see the two as intertwined. Rhymes a little bit. A play of subjectivity and objectivity, or as Wei Wu Wei would say, to realize all objects are subject, and we, the dreamer of this dream. Myth awakens us. It potentially can awaken us to our true self, to our Buddha mind, to our cosmic consciousness, because myth is a kind of cosmic memory of all of these past events and future events, things that haven't happened and things that have happened, and things that are beyond time, but are expressed in time. So, our mind is a gateway to the infinite and to knowledge like this, and if we can tune ourselves into this aspect of who we are, we can awaken to more and more of ourselves. And it would seem, as far as cosmic stories go, and a myth for a planetary Earth, a planetary culture, it would seem that our myth is that we have to integrate, we have to recollect a little bit more this time. We can't just swing wildly from connection to the world with disconnection to the world, science and myth, supernatural and natural, left brain and right brain. We can't just swing wildly anymore. Although the dynamics of the spiral will always be present, at this rung it requires a little bit more integration, a little bit more unity. Truly an evolutionary process, truly a story of rebirth, and truly a story of reproduction, and in a sense the balance of the masculine and the feminine, the expansion and the contraction, the involution of the soul or the higher self is being invited and demanded in order for us to step up and survive and emerge in a whole new way. And thank you for listening.